Otis Spunkmeyer.
Otis Spunkmeyer.
Spunkmeyer.
It's the active ingredient.
That one's Bully, and this one's Varney. You might think this podcast's balmy, but we'd like you to take a listen, 'cause this is their weekly mission.
Valley High may call you any night, any day. In your heart, you will call you, come away, come away. Now, why am I singing that?
Because you're getting old.
No, it's because I was listening very early this morning to South Pacific for the first time on the early morning television, and it brought so many memories to mind. And I don't think it came out in 1958 when I was 11 and you were 24. And
you keep exaggerating the issue, mate. I don't care. Hang on a minute, I'm adjusting my chair. It's too low. That's better.
But what I did see, I think for the first time, was myself in 1958 being the good-looking young lieutenant, or is it lieutenant in the American Navy? Lieutenant in the Yankee Navy.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's bloody Varney. And it was a mixture of two. There was a Luther, a guy called Luther, who was a Varney-esque character, and also a Frenchman who was trying to get his way with a very good-looking young woman. And he made the point that the Frenchman had killed a man called Bully, and this is all in the film South Pacific.
Why?
And it was amazing because when they sang Valley High,
like you just did,
like I just did, pretty.
It wasn't as good as that though.
No,
in the film.
I'm going to mention that in a minute.
Magnificent that was.
It was a sort of Valley High is an island that they're not on, so it's an island further away. I only learned this morning, and it was all masked in purple. So the whole film became purple when they were singing Valley High, etc.
Why do you always mention?
Then later, when the Frenchman, the Varney lookalike, was trying to get his leg over the very good-looking young American actress, everything went gold and yellow, which I thought was bizarre.
Why? Can I talk now?
You can, but I want to get back. I want to
get
get
like
back
an
to
extended play record. You just get going and you just keep going and going and going. You think, oh God, why do you always mention my name in connection with anything unsavoury?
Because after knowing you for now 54 years, then it is since 1965.
Yes.
Things unsavoury tend to jump to my mind.
No, but there are certain things.
Just think of that lovely young Swiss girl that you discarded.
Erica. There are things in my life which are worth mentioning, good things, but you never seem to dwell on those at all.
I don't think that's entirely true.
I know it's entirely true.
I think you.
And also,
I acknowledge that you actually made a good-looking son called Matt, who I like.
Yeah.
But that's one good memory, and that's about 40 years old now, isn't it?
Well, thanks for that.
That's all right, Ron.
But also, you also introduce all these things with. You always insist on singing. I don't know why, because your voice has got quite reedy now. It has a kind of nasally sound to it that you usually associate with older people who are on the way out. And that's how you sound. There's nothing vibrant or encouraging about it. It's just reedy, a reedy, nasally little old man. So why do you do it?
Because it's a memory of the South Pacific. And have you ever been to the South Pacific?
You know I haven't. No, I haven't. And you've been there on a cruise, have you?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you might have done. Another cruise.
Another one many years ago.
How many times to the South Pacific? Because it's going to be more than 3 times, isn't it?
No, twice.
Only twice?
Yes, yeah.
Oh dear, it must have been having a lean year, commercially speaking.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't been to the South Pacific.
But it was quite magical. And
I'm sure.
I'm not boasting, Varn.
No.
But I went to an island called Bora Bora.
I'm not prone to boasting, Varn.
I'm not.
Yeah, bloody well are.
You know, on this particular cruise, I met we met. Pat was with me, and we met a lady called Gwen. Have I mentioned Gwen at these dues before? I may have mentioned her when we started.
She's the red-haired Scot.
No, she was about 80, and this is 20 odd years ago.
Yes.
so she's probably in Valhalla by now.
Is that in the South Pacific?
It might well be, because it's magical enough.
He takes everything I say so seriously.
And Gwen was an
Yes.
80-year-old, and
Yeah.
she tried to teach me bridge during the whole. It was about a 3 or 4 week cruise from San Francisco, I think.
Do you find old
across
people
to
very
Australia.
interesting?
No, but this particular woman was amazing, and she had an amazing story. She was the widow of a general in the British Army who died. And she recounted a story, which I may have recounted before, but then we only had 2 listeners, and now we've probably got 12. So for the 10 that haven't heard it before, let me tell you Gwen's story. Gwen's husband was, as I say, he died some sort of general, but at this time he was a lieutenant colonel in charge of a gunners battalion based in Malaya. Now, I visited Malaya last year. And
On a cruise?
On a cruise
Yeah,
again.
I thought you might have been, yeah.
An amazing country full of golden pagodas, and the people...
Golden what?
Pagodas.
What's that?
A big sort of church.
Oh, didn't know that.
And
Big what?
churches.
Church,
thing.
Elliot, try and keep
their
up, for
version of
goodness sake.
churches.
Try and keep up.
Sorry.
And do you know why they changed the...
And sit upright in your chair. I know you're nodding off.
No, he's not.
Come on.
I want to tell you the story
I know
about
you are
Gwen.
doing.
She was a really important lady. I've met lots of important people, but she was probably one of the most important.
I'm a very important person. I've met lots of important people.
No, I'm not saying I'm important.
Yeah, come on.
No. But Gwen's husband was in charge in a base in Malaya during the emergency. Have you heard about the emergency?
In what?
In
Malaya.
The Malayan emergency. Basically, a war against Chinese communists.
Oh, yes,
basically.
that one.
Yep,
Yes.
that one.
Yep.
And this is the early 50s, I think, 51. And the Yanks could have learnt the lesson from the Brits, because the Brits did it right in Malaya, and he's taking the mickey now, isn't he, Bob?
Yeah, but you're beginning to tail off. You've only been going
I'm telling you
5
the
minutes.
story. Together with the gunners, there was a battalion of Gurkha soldiers. Yeah, the Gurkhas went on a foray into the forest.
A foray.
Foray.
Yeah.
French word.
I know it.
I've done my French this morning.
Yeah, go on.
Excellent. Foray.
Come on.
And they got caught by the communists.
Yeah.
All of them, bar one, was murdered by the communist. And a young New Zealand pilot had gone with them. And the only survivors were the halberdier. Do you know what a halberdier is?
No, not yet.
A sergeant major in the Gurkhas, together with this young New Zealand pilot. The Gurkha was injured, and the New Zealander managed to carry him half out. Just don't play that yet, Bob. Had to leave him, but he marked the trees on the way and returned with the Gurkhas to save the halberdier's life. The young pilot was due to leave the following day, and he went to say cheerio to Gwen's husband. Gwen's husband wasn't there, and the sergeant said, "The colonel's too busy to see you," but he said to say cheerio. But what the colonel had done had got all of the Gurkhas and the gunners together on the parade ground, and this young New Zealand pilot was given an immediate military cross for his bravery in saving the life of this young this Gurkha sergeant major. Now, from your boredom, Varn, I've cut that as short as I possibly can, because it goes on
God,
much
if
longer.
that's short, I'd hate to hear long.
That was a story from Gwen, a late great Britain.
What was the point of that story?
Well, Gwen used to. She was 80, and she shared a cabin in the depths of the ship with 3 others, one of whom was in her 50s, and the 50-odd-year-old couldn't get onto the top bunk of the rooms, the cabins they shared.
Yeah.
So Gwen had to go on the top bunk
Right.
at the age of 80. A tremendous lady who's probably dead now, very intelligent, lots to talk about. And I've finished now, Varn.
Thank God for that.
Varney's been playing his
I
recorder.
tell you
all the
what,
way
I mean, I don't mind you recounting these memories of cruising memories, but try and make them interesting.
Well, I thought that was quite.
It was boring as a hell. That
Elliot,
it
was
wasn't
that
interesting
boring?
at all.
Right, interesting.
Elliot, stop sucking up to him. I know it's Christmas. Stop sucking up to him. It wasn't
Here's
interesting.
the £10 note.
And I'll
under
tell
the
you
table.
what. Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you what. If you don't mind me saying this, and if you do, I don't care. But if you don't mind me saying this, if you used a bit of inflection in these stories, you know what that means?
Yes, I do.
I mean, you're a little bit Yes, that's the one.
Yes.
You're a bit monosyllabic. I mean, when you're telling a story, you've got to have crescendos. It's like playing a piece of music.
It's hard. It's hard to crescendo when you've got Varney with his gaping looks opposite you.
Yeah, but I was nodding off there.
Yeah.
And so, if you tell a story about Gwen on a top bunk, whatever you're talking about, I've forgotten now. Try and put some inflection into it.
So,
have a crescendo.
So Gwen on the top.
And a sort of rallentando and a flipping this and that. Make the thing interesting.
Well,
and then people might listen.
Okay.
But at the moment, you've just lost us another 12 listeners.
I didn't know we had 12.
Well, we probably haven't now.
Oh, okay.
So, right, we're going to just move on a little bit now, Elliot. You can start recording again now, Elliot. Oh, you were doing.
Starting from now.
Yeah, start it from now. Because that wasn't worth a lot. Right, now, this week, we've got a lot to talk about this week because it's the whole week has been a shambles, hasn't it?
Oh, as far as our country's concerned, yeah.
Yes, as regards everything. Before we start, I gave you a Christmas card just now.
You did, and I didn't know the relevance, but other than the little...
You never spotted the relevance, did you?
No, I did. I spotted the flying little object you
I drew that on the front to be topical.
Not nearly as well as I think as the one I sent you.
You sent me and I said at the time...
The whole of Banbury Post Office.
Yes, you sent me a post. You sent me a card with, and on the envelope you'd drawn a picture of Scrooge, and I thought it was very professionally drawn to a point where I thought it had been professionally done.
No, I did it wrong.
And it was very good. Mm-hmm. And I said at the time it was very good. And the only trouble now, the whole street, the postman, and everybody else in Banbury knows that I'm a little bit tight-fisted.
But you look remarkably like that.
It was very good.
Yes.
Did you copy it?
No, I copied it. Varn, you're stuck in my mind after 50 odd years, Varn.
What did you copy it of?
It was a Varn lookalike.
What was that a copy of?
A copy of your mush.
All right, I didn't know that. But anyway, yeah, it was a good card. I was quite thrilled with that. Good. But anyway, your card and the relevance of giving you a card this morning is that Christmas cards, and I bought those cards because I ran out last week. So I went into my favourite store, Morrison's, the People's Store.
People's Republic of Morrison.
Not like Waitrose, old Waitrose Bully who goes up market. I shop at Morrison's. And you can guarantee that a week before Christmas, they've got Christmas cards at 10p a packet for 12 because they've ordered too many. And they've also got whole salmon that they're binning out at about £2 a kilo because they've ordered too many of those. And I always have some of each.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a good price. So I bought a packet of cards for, I think it was £1. Mm-hmm. And I went home and started to write them out. And I noticed in the card, as you'll have observed from the card I gave you, that it didn't say Happy Christmas. What did it say?
I should read it out, Barn.
Read it out because
shall I try and put inflection in this?
Put some inflections in, make it.
Winter wishes.
Yes.
And a happy New Year.
Exactly. Winter wishes. So the word Christmas.
Obliterated.
Yeah, why?
I thought Christmas had changed its name to something Diwali or something.
No, not quite. We're on the way.
Festival
But apparently this has been done by Morrison's. I think the cards were printed by. I think it's been done so that nobody becomes offended by the word Christmas. Not that anybody will become offended by the word Christmas, because.
But we both know. Well, Christmas is the sort of religion of Christ, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Who's called Christ around here?
Oh, yourself.
On top of.
Oh, yeah. It's always back to.
It's actually pagan, isn't it? So.
Is it?
It's a load of bollocks.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
that was the theological comment from Elliot.
Jesus was born
so a load of bollocks.
Yeah.
Late August, early September.
Probably on January the 4th.
Yeah, nowhere near Christmas. And the reason we celebrate it when we do, even trees are pagan, the whole Christmas tree thing. So it's all a load of nonsense. Anyway, Christians should be offended that their saviour's been used as
Elliot, you don't
a pagan festival.
You weren't offended by getting a Christmas card from me?
No,
that's fine.
I'm just saying that if people look into things enough, there's always something to be pissed off about.
And it merely demonstrates the fragility of the religious cult, if you like. Yeah. I mean, that card, you've got a nice card. It's got a picture of a deer on the front.
What's that?
You notice deer? No, it's not Jesus. It's a picture of a deer. It's got a look of surprise on its face, which means it's probably been shot at the arse with a crossbow.
Or if that's been taken from the front of a car.
As the car was moving. The car was moving, yeah, that's right. I saw that happen once. In Scotland, I saw a 40-ton wagon hit a deer. Oh, and it was horrific. It was about 2 a.m.
Was it killed straight away? Or?
No, there were just bits of it everywhere.
You see the footage of the reindeers, like in Canada, the mooses, I suppose.
Yeah.
Gone straight to the windscreen and killed it.
And they're big.
Tell you what, I've
They're
seen
big
and
old
I
things.
hate when you see these little pheasants or little birds and people drive straight through them. And I think that's horrific. I just feel like driving into their cars.
So, do you know that the law as regards hitting a pheasant?
No, I don't know any laws. But
Well, if you hit a pheasant,
I would miss it if I could.
If you wing a pheasant, I was aiming for them.
Yeah.
But if you wing a pheasant,
Varney, that's why I keep saying you're nasty. You're my friend,
if you want,
and I do like you, but you do have your nasty side.
If a pheasant wants to strut across the road in front of my car, I'm not going to do an emergency stop or do a U-turn around it.
Well, I'll do all of those things.
It takes its chance. But if you hit a pheasant and you sort of stun it or knock it out or break its neck or kill it, and it falls to the side of the road,
yes.
Do you know that it's illegal to stop and pick it up?
Is that poaching?
No, but the vehicle behind can.
Oh, really?
So it is technically, I guess it is poaching because you've shot it, and then if you've killed it, you can't take it. But if they find it dead, it's fine.
So if you're driving along and the car in front hits a pheasant, the car in front can't stop and pick the pheasant up because they're quite edible. Yeah. Roadkill.
So that's why.
Bit of roadkill.
That's why you always trail other vehicles going along country
Well,
roads.
I was driving. You know where
just do it in convoy.
You know where Ano is.
Yes.
I was driving through Ano following a police car, doing about 30 miles an hour. And as we exited Ano down the road there, the police car hit a pheasant. And the old pheasant flew up in the air into the gutter, dead as a doornail. And the police car hit the brakes and was drawing to a close. And I stopped right by the pheasant and jumped out.
Ran out and picked it up.
Picked the pheasant up. Yeah. And as I was picking the pheasant up, the copper was looking out of his window. And I waggled my finger at him like that because he knew the score as well. But that is the law. You can't hit a bird and pick it up.
For the first time in 30 or 40 years, Varn, you've taught me something.
I'm teaching you things all the time. A pal of mine, he hit a deer one night going home.
Do you know why the letter 13 is supposed to be unlucky?
Here we go. Why?
You know, the 13 on the portrait of Christ, etc.
The Last Supper.
The Last Supper.
Is Judas the 13th?
Judas is supposed to be the 13th, but again, that predates all of that because the 12 gods.
Inflections.
No, the 12 gods.
Maybe stick to the.
There was a little
monotone.
god.
We'll stick to the monotone.
A little god called, what was the little god's name?
Godlet.
No.
What?
Loki.
What little god?
Loki.
Yeah, this is pre-Christianity, so everything goes back to pre-Christianity. December the 25th is a quarter day. Do you know what a quarter day is?
Yeah, you've told us before. You've told us before.
Yeah.
I must say, this programme is getting quite sort of seasonal now, isn't it? Quite festive.
It is, yes.
Well, we're in festive mode, aren't we?
No,
we've
not
got
particularly, no.
We've got the mince pies.
I'm starting to have more and more sympathy with Ebenezer Scrooge's. You know, I've been shopping this morning and into Waitrose, which is
People's supermarket.
The upper class supermarket.
But my French teacher was saying in French, of course, this morning that she visited your store, one of those German stores, Aldi's or one of those.
Aldi, yeah.
And that was heaving, and she couldn't get in the car.
A good store,
etc.
Aldi and the other one.
Very good.
Are they good? Right?
Yeah, they're good.
Much better than you think they are. Much better. But yeah, it's evening where I went shopping this morning for a few extra bits, and I was just like,
no, it is appalling.
Horrible.
No.
Horrible.
And I think Christmas is wonderful for children.
Yeah.
But for grown-ups, it's just a waste of time.
That's how I see it now. For me, it's time off, and that's what it is. Time off. I go down south, spend it with people I don't hate. That's as good as you can.
You go down south.
Good talking.
Varney's disappearing to the Pays de Galles. Do you know what?
Wales. I'm off to Wales.
Yeah.
I'm off to Wales. It's all organised, I hope.
And we've arranged around him going to Wales. We've arranged a function at our house on Sunday, which you're more than welcome to.
Which they
but
planned it specifically.
Yeah.
knowing I was away.
And I'm really sorry, Varn, that you
No, you're not
can't
sorry.
make it. No,
There
and a
was a
smirk.
certain amount of
Really
glee.
sorry, but you're not laughing.
No, there's a certain amount of glee in his voice when he said, "Oh, you can't
Oh,
come."
you're going to be away.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the favourite British film declared for this?
Love Actually,
No.
What?
It's a Wonderful
The
Life.
Great Escape.
It's a wonderful. God, that Elliot is so smart.
What is it?
It's a wonderful.
What's that?
It's a film.
Who's in
Oh,
it?
come on! What's it? The
James-
James Stewart. Is it Stewart?
Jim Stewart.
James
And who?
Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart.
And the
That's
most
someone else.
and
Oh, it's
the
an
most
old film, isn't it?
Like
Just
48,
47, I think it is.
Black and white.
It was in black and white.
You'll
I
love
saw
it.
it.
Was
I
there a
saw-
piano playing at the front?
That's Casablanca, isn't it?
at Casablanca. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
No, but
No, never seen it. Never seen it.
actually, I've seen.
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Yeah.
That's the
And guess
big
what?
quote.
What's the angel's name?
Oh, I can't remember. Gabriel. No.
Clarence.
Clarence.
Clarence is it.
It's been years since I saw it.
Yeah.
Clarence.
I actually saw it this season. Somebody had coloured it in, and it's amazing in colour.
I've never seen it.
No, well you wouldn't, but it's basically a battle about.
What do you mean you wouldn't?
You would. It's not your sort of. It's too nice a film, Barney. If
Oh,
there's
right.
no blood and gore in it. No, there is.
He's
It's
about
sort
to
of-
kill himself, and he flashes back to his entire life.
and he wishes that he'd never been born, and an angel called Clarence comes down from above and gives him his wish.
Clarence.
Clarence, that's the name of the angel. Yes.
You wouldn't have an angel called Clarence.
Why not?
Well, it's a bit effeminate, isn't it?
Also, is Gabriel.
Are angels men or women?
They're neither, are they?
Neither are they.
Are they gender
Cherubim
fluid?
and Seraphim are all.
They're
Gender fluid angels.
They're the top two angels.
There
of
they are.
nine.
There's 7, isn't there?
No,
I think
nine.
it
There's
is.
9.
We discussed it before.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we
the
have.
top two at
I think
cherubim.
they're technically asexual.
Are they really?
I think so.
Oh dear. Shall we
Anyway,
talk about
A Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Is the best film.
Yeah, fine. I've never seen it, but my
No,
favourite
but
film
but I want to go. I want to go on to life today because
all
this
right.
particular film.
Inflex.
Yeah, in this particular film,
You don't have to sound Swedish to inflex.
James Stewart
In this film.
was told that he hadn't existed, and there was a horrible man called Potter, who in the other life, in the new life, took over the town and renamed it Pottersville. And Pottersville was horrible, basically, with brothels all over the place and
Sounds
Potter
all
getting
right.
his way. But I know, but not in
Wrong with
1947, downtown America. And the two things go together. South Pacific, 58, and 10 years before, 48, with It's a Wonderful Life, showed a part of America which was wonderful, and the innocence, etc. Or was it feigned interest? But the point I'm trying to make is Pottersville, if you look at it on the film, please watch it over the holiday, people, and it bears a remarkable resemblance to downtown Britain today. So I think that Britain should be called Pottersville land, because it's becoming horrible. From when we were young, Elliot won't remember, he's much younger, but it has changed tremendously, hasn't it, our country?
Yes,
It has.
but not for the better.
No, way
Although
for the
people will
worse.
say it's for the better.
Yeah, but people of Elliot's age and younger won't. They think it's normal, and I'm saying, and I think you will agree, that it's gone downhill tremendously over the last 50 or 60 years.
There's two things I notice about life nowadays.
Can I just bring? Do you recognise that, or don't you think about it?
Even in my lifetime, things are different, but much like, I mean, I guess the point of It's a Wonderful Life is that he thinks everything is awful, and then he kind of rethinks it.
Oh, he doesn't. He's been robbed. No, not robbed.
Sticking himself
He's lost $4,000 from his company.
So they kind of, and then obviously with this, if he hadn't lived, these are the things that
Yeah.
happened if he hadn't lived. So
But the thing
it
is-
was worth living.
in 30 years from now, will my grandchildren be saying, "Ooh, life's pretty awful now. I wish we were back in the sort of 2000."
And I would say the same thing. I wish I was back in, the mid '90s or even the early '90s when everything seemed better and more innocent. But I think part of it is we're much more aware of everything now. I don't know if anything is necessarily worse. You can look at crime rates and things that are happening during the Blitz and think it's awful, but we just hear about everything the second it happens nowadays.
Yeah, but hasn't life gone mad? And I'll bring up two things socialist. I've never voted socialist in my life. I hate their party, I don't like them. But two things happened this week which made me feel slightly sorry for them. A bloke who was not dismissed from the party, but he had the whip withdrawn from the Labour Party. You know why? Because in 2010 he touched a woman's knee and said, "Come back to my room," at some Labour Party conference in 2010.
Did she go?
And no, I don't think she could have done.
Oh.
But she whinged about it last year, and he had his 70,000 job and 70,000 expenses withdrawn from the party, and it's just totally out of proportion. You know, this isn't rape; it's touching somebody's knee and saying, "Wink, wink, come back to my room."
Yeah, but
yet,
this is the way it's gone. This is why these.
No, and I just want to go on to the more important
be quick
point,
then, because you're
which is that awful. What's the awful head of the Labour Party? Corbyn, Mr. Corbyn. In Parliament, I heard him say, "What, dreadful woman" or something.
Stupid woman.
Stupid woman. And what is wrong with saying stupid woman?
Especially when she is.
Yeah.
Well, quite. I entirely agree.
Yeah.
I entirely agree.
I had this conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, no one would be upset if you hit a stupid man.
No.
And no one would be upset if a woman said stupid man to Corbyn. She'd be well within her rights if that's what she thought.
Yes.
But there's debate whether he said woman or people anyway, isn't there?
Yeah, but
regardless, if she's stupid and a woman, call her a stupid woman.
Absolutely.
It's a noun and an adjective. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And
Well, you could have called her a lot worse.
What annoyed me about it, they made so much of nothing, and it is nothing. If you think she's a stupid woman, fine. Call her a stupid woman, don't do it publicly, but call her a stupid woman, and that's entirely his opinion. I must say my own opinion of Mrs May is that she's behaved rather naively in all these various negotiations.
Yes.
But equally, somebody in Corbyn's position or Theresa May's position must know that every millisecond of the time that they're performing or speaking or whatever, they are being filmed and watched and analysed. You've got cameras, you've got lip readers, you've got sound recorders 3/4 of a mile away picking up every syllable. There is no such thing as privacy or private thought anymore. And if you want to mutter under your breath, "stupid woman," then you run the risk of having the book thrown at you, which they try and do, but I don't understand
what
why.
I'm saying, he shouldn't have had the book thrown at him.
No, I entirely agree with you.
The funny thing is, you know, it's like that. You were talking about a while back the anti-Semitic thing. There wasn't really anything he'd said that was. But it's, you know, 6 months ago, I think it was Jeremy Hunt or one of the cabinet members did the exact same thing, called someone a stupid woman. It's in the paper and he apologised for it. So now they're all like, "Oh, Corbyn's awful because he said it." But it's like, well,
but you see how
it's such hypocrisy.
This
Is it even a problem?
This demonstrates that Corbyn isn't the brightest thing in the box, and he's certainly not. Because if he'd suddenly realised, and having said that in a fit of pique at the stuff she was coming out with, and thinking it was a rather stupid thing to say, and if he'd have thought to himself, "Stupid woman," and said it and mouthed it and got caught, all he had to do was to diffuse that situation was to apologise.
Yes.
And it's the easiest thing in the world. You and I know, and we've learned years, decades ago, that apologising is the swiftest tool to gaining the upper hand.
Yeah.
It was Philip Hammond, by the way, just for transparency, 6 months ago, called a woman in Parliament a stupid woman.
Somebody called Mrs Thatcher a stupid woman in Parliament in 1980, whenever it was.
Yeah.
And nobody batted an eyelid in those days because they were a bit more sensible in those days. My take on this, having watched that shower in Parliament, including that unbelievable little thing in the Speaker's chair.
Oh, don't like him.
No. I watched this lot. How many of them in there? 700, isn't there?
650.
Shouting and screaming like kids on a playground.
I looked at that lot and I thought, this lot are running our country.
Yep, it
And
is.
it is quite frightening to think that a load of kids like that are running the country.
When they act like they act, calling any of them stupid isn't all that far from the truth. Anyway. When they're screaming, you see it.
It's just so undignified.
It's like they're playing British Bulldog on the playground. I don't know if you ever did British
Stupid,
Bulldog
isn't
at
it?
school. It's probably banned now.
But going back to I think probably Elliot voted to stay in Europe, and
He
you
did.
and I.
He's already told us.
Yeah, I thought that was the case, but you and I voted to exit, basically on democratic principles, and I think it's been proven that it's extraordinarily difficult to get out of the enmeshment. Is that a good word? Enmeshment.
That's a fantastic word.
I'm only half in English at the moment because I'm half in French. So, le enmeshment de Europe avec la île d'Angleterre est très difficile de porter.
I love it when you go into French because you look like Kermit. Your whole face all screws up and sort of pouts, and you look like Kermit the Frog. It's unbelievable how they behave like that. I can't believe it.
But you and I are both small businessmen, basically. For the last 50 years, we've both run small businesses. And you know that their opening position was a very strong gambit, because 80% of Parliament said, let's enact Article 50 to get out. And now there's a government minister saying that unless the Conservative Party goes his way, which is some sort of agreement so we half stay in, he's going to vote against his government and against his party's last election promises. So the whole thing is gone mad. And if it fails, then we need another party, a pro-Brexit, right of centre party.
All the nonsense about what are we going to do if we can't get a deal, all this thing about a deal, is so overblown.
Yeah. And even now, on if you watch the television, every continental country are saying, we're okay, we don't care, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And I told you a few weeks ago, I actually heard on the radio, it would be on Radio 4, only one to listen to, German car manufacturers saying, the problem is not a problem for German car manufacturer, it is number 25, I think, 24 or 25 on our list of concerns.
I tell you, I love the way you slide from French into German.
It's good.
Really,
it's
really
good.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Can you do that German bit again? I love it.
I should give you a German phrase, and I explain.
You sound like haircuts.
I'll explain this. I shall explain this German phrase to Elliot.
Calm down.
German barbers.
German barber.
Here we go.
Haircuts.
Yeah. Fragen seine Mutter, wer dein Vater ist. Do you know what that means?
Your father is, it's
it's
your mother doesn't know who your father is.
That's it.
Is that monkey?
No, it is, and because a German chef, 1962 taught me that, and it was the truth then, because they didn't know whether their father was German or a Russian soldier invading in 1945.
They're banging on about no deal. Frankly, I don't think it's that important. There will be certain people in England who export and who do this and that who will think it's very important. But I think you'll find that when everything evens out, you see, the Continentals are as worried about their lorry drivers coming to England as our lorry drivers are. So nothing's going to happen.
No, but I love military history, and it's very.
When did that kick in?
Oh, about 50 odd years ago.
1802.
Yeah, 1802.
Yeah.
No, but it's, and I've never really understood until a couple of weeks ago, until I heard those German car manufacturers, why the Germans fought so well at the ending, towards the ending of April, May 1945. They were brilliant. All the way back to Berlin, they fought tremendously well. And it was exactly the same reason of those German manufacturers, because their government, the people in charge, have said, you have to do it this way. And so it is not a problem. And the German car manufacturers are selling us 1 million cars a year, and they're saying it's not a problem. Of course it's a problem, but they just don't admit it.
It is a problem.
That's why they're great soldiers, the Germans.
They're great soldiers, but they're not as great as we are. And I'll tell you what.
Never know when they're beaten.
But equally, it's fine. If things are going to the plan, they're fine. If things deviate from the plan, they're lost.
Yeah.
Whereas we are not.
And they're over clever. Again, can I give you something else militarily? Do you know why
I wish you would.
Do you know why the German Panzer,
bazooka,
the German Tiger tanks and Panther tanks were far superior to the Russian tanks? Do you know how the Russians beat them? Because basically the Germans organised their tanks so there was one command tank among 10 other non-command tanks, all with radios. And do you know how they could identify the command tank? It had blooming radio masts all over it. So all the Russians had to do was get rid of that one tank, and the others were blind. That's basically how the Russian tanks beat the German tanks.
I thought the German tanks ran out of petrol.
No, not then. No, they didn't. This is the Battle of Kursk.
Oh right.
Sorry, and I won't go in there. But
no, but I was thinking the Battle of the Bulge, wasn't I?
Battle of the Bulge, though, petrol, yes.
I thought so, yes.
This is before that. This is 1943.
starring Clint Eastwood and Robert Shaw.
Or starring probably everything in the American and British, and the Germans. Robert, what's his name? He was an Englishman, a Welshman actually, in that wonderful song we could have in where the German panzer troops.
There's always another wonderful song coming up here. Take a note.
Yeah.
At the end of the film, where his tank catches fire, and you see Robert Shaw, who played a German tank commander. He was in charge of the German tanks.
Yes.
And he did it very well. He also played the killer in.
No, he played Quint and the Quint in the Jaws. That was Robert Shaw, wasn't it?
The what?
Quint.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
I think so.
In the what?
His name was Quint.
In Jaws.
In Jaws.
It was, yes.
Yes.
I saw that the other night. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But the ones I like.
I haven't seen that in
he
about
played.
100 years.
He played the assassin from Spectre in From Russia with Love.
Yes.
Because he had a fight on that train with James Bond. Mm-hmm. And then he played the German tank commander in Battle of the Bulge.
I'm trying to desperately think of the great song that he was introduced to his new Panzer Army in an underground bunker in somewhere around Berlin, I think. And they some Panzer control started singing. Then they all started, and then Robert Shaw, whatever his name was, insisted that his driver. Now, interestingly,
his Batman,
yes, was a German soldier in the Second World War,
and he was an aging Batman,
and he had a scar,
yes,
on his cheek.
And I remember that scene well because you often treat me in that rather dismissive fashion, as Robert Shaw did to that chap.
It comes naturally, Von.
I know it does, and you do it without fear, favour, or even batting an eyelid.
But I'm desperately trying to think of this. Think of the Panzer song from the battle, and it'll come through. And as soon as I hear it, I'll be able to sing it in German all the way through.
I'll tell you what, I can't just wait for that. So we'll look that up later, shall we?
Okay.
There's no.
But where are we leading? I don't know. I've gone down some sort of alleyway. I don't know where I'm going.
Where?
What with the conversation?
I don't know.
What are we talking about this?
You deviated so far back, I can't remember now. You were on about German car manufacturers.
That you've got it. That would be a good getting out. Boom, boom, boom.
Oi, pack it in. You should have been born a German.
Shouldn't become a Nazi all of a sudden.
Are you sure you voted out of the EU? Eh?
No, I think
he's looking for German.
He loves it, doesn't he? He was completely born at the wrong time. Completely born at the wrong time.
And I study military history, and you know by far the best troops in the world are the Germans.
Yeah.
And do you know anything? Have I taught you about a Montgomery cocktail?
Yes.
What did I tell you about that?
What?
You don't remember these things, do you?
You told me about it.
I know I did. Elliot, have I told you it?
I think so.
No, it's an American cocktail, and who's the playwright, the author who did Death in the Afternoon? Famous American. If you Google that, and he's famous in the beginning of the last century.
Not that famous, obviously.
He is. You'll know his name. Death in the Afternoon.
Not Fitzgerald.
No, it isn't him. It's a famous one, and he invented it. And it is in fact 15 parts gin to 1 part vermouth.
Oh, that's right. You told me in an email.
Ernest Hemingway.
Ernest Hemingway.
Yes.
Yeah.
You told me in an email about that.
And he named it because Montgomery demanded a superiority over the Germans of 15-1 before he would attack, according to Hemingway. So Germans, fantastic.
Yeah, fine. Well, you've done your bit.
And they've killed 2 Chris Bullivants, these guys.
I know you.
But I still think they're great.
You've done your pro-German bit of propaganda.
I just don't want to be married to them.
Don't worry. When we stay in the EU, there will be a place for you in the regime. Don't worry.
Okay.
You're
Farage is married to a German, isn't he?
Yeah.
Who is?
So he loves him as well.
I've met Farage.
Farage.
Yeah.
He's part German, yeah.
His
wife's German, yeah, that's right.
His kids speak German.
Yeah, you met Farage, didn't you?
Yes.
He didn't like you, did he?
Pardon?
He didn't like you.
No, I made the mistake of saying he looked a lot older in face to face. And he just ignored me.
When the day after you'd been to have lunch with him, you paid for that, didn't you?
No.
Did you not?
No.
You're supposed to.
I'm supposed to.
I know, but you didn't.
No, you give so much to the party.
Exactly.
Yes,
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But the day after you came back, and I said, "How do you get on with Nigel, Bully?" And you said, "Well, I don't think he took to me really."
No.
I said, "Why is that?"
It was a joke.
Yeah, but these high-pressure people, they don't take jokes as readily as you.
You're
He's
right.
not known for a sense of humour, is he?
No.
Is he not?
Not really.
Isn't he? Oh. But you shouldn't have said that. I mean, by now, if you'd have said the right words, you'd probably been deputy leader.
But would you want to be? No.
No.
What I'm saying about another party, because I was in UKIP for about 15 minutes, and whilst I met what's the little fella that's supposed to have funded them, I met him and he seems a nice guy. But locally, no, one local guy I like, but most of them were idiots.
Robert Kilmore still, because you get money back in the day.
He went in, yes, but Mr. Orange Man, yes, yes.
Well, nice mince pies.
They're very nice mince pies.
You want another one?
No, thank you.
Do you know if I have too many, I come out in a rash? A rash. I
Are
can
you
come out.
allergic to mince? Is that what it is?
No, but I tend to eat too many and then I come out in a rash.
Can we go on to army recruiting,
if you want to, yes. I mean, I know that the military is very close to your heart.
It is, but it's something I don't understand, which is that all of the generals are whinging that we're falling about 7,000 recruits short each year.
Yeah.
And yet, do you know there are thousands and thousands of Gurkhas in Nepal?
I know.
Wanting to join the British Army.
I know that as well.
So why don't we start several new Gurkha regiments? They will get entree into Britain, and so get rid of some more Eastern Europeans in favour of these great people. No, I like Gurkhas. Do you know on all the ships?
I know you do.
All of the security on all of the British ships was always Gurkhas or ex-Gurkhas. They'd been.
But obviously, all these
good guys.
All these Gurkhas who are just waiting to leap into these vacancies in the British Army would have to pass a series of new government guidelines on whether you're eligible to come into the country or not, wouldn't you?
But we allow 400 a year, I think it is, in. So let's make it 8,000 a year.
Yeah.
Gets rid of the problem
Right.
of under recruiting, and these are good guys, the best guys.
Yeah.
So my daughter could marry a Gurkha, as far as I was concerned. I think they're wonderful.
Right.
So we finish.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, I mean, that's very profound, isn't it? You wouldn't let her marry me.
I blooming wouldn't.
Why
But,
not?
the only problem with that, they're short on the shortish size.
And the old vertically challenged.
No, but they're tough with it. It gives them something, being short asses.
What's that speaker in the House of Commons? What's the matter with the bloke?
John Burke.
Yeah. What's the matter with him?
I think he's a bit of a cow, isn't he?
He's leaving, he don't care.
He's not leaving though.
He was,
No.
he said he was.
He's changed his mind again.
Yeah, his wife's
Cushy job, isn't it?
his wife's a raving lefty, and I think she's bent in the wrong way, basically.
She's an egomaniac.
Yeah, because he's a notional Tory, but they lose the vote when they become Speaker. But
Yeah, but they still lean one way or the other. And he
but
certainly
do you
does.
know do you know why they have to be dragged to the Speaker's chair? Do you know why?
They have to be dragged from the chair.
No, dragged to
No one
the
wants to
chair.
do the job.
Because allegedly, so many of them were murdered by the kings hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, we can't get rid of him.
No, we can't, but we should. I don't like the man.
Nor do I.
And for instance, the reason number one, la raison numéro une, is that you're impartial. And the guy has said that he would rather we stay in Europe. So how can you be impartial on anything European?
But this is the whole point. This is the whole point. We had this vote 2.5 years ago. It was a simple choice, wasn't it? And since 2.5 years ago, every which way and loose.
They've tried to make it more and more complicated.
I mean, it's ridiculous now. Now listen to that other woman. Who's the one who wants a second referendum?
Oh,
the Tory lady who wants a second referendum.
I don't. Another one I don't like, I'm afraid.
How can they do this? I mean, they're basically waving two fingers at the electorate and saying, "Look, we don't think you're right.
We know better than you."
Yeah,
do.
that's right. And the number of people I've heard, you listened to Heseltine on this.
Oh, I don't like him either.
Pompous old fool he is. And he says that, the 17.2, but they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, what a conceited bloody effort to it's wrong, isn't it?
And more or less all of the lords are the same.
Oh, no,
and I think
Lord Adonis,
they're destroying themselves because early in the morning when I've got nothing better to do, I look at it sounds as though you're...
Shush, calm down. Calm down.
You watch them and they're all asleep. Yeah. And they're all ancient, they're all older than you, Varn, on there, and they're all uniformly saying, well,
that's fine.
The people didn't know what they were
But I'm not senile. I'm not senile. You have
They're asleep, in the House of Lords take their 300 quid out from.
But
Yes.
it's if you look at it, it's
Be
more
a
Go to work for
Be a good old refund package there, wouldn't there?
No, flipping it.
but
Put it back into the society.
it was 300 quid or so, I thought. On top of that cash amount, they got all sorts of allowances,
Of course they do.
and so
And a subsidised bar.
yeah,
But I
subsidised
mean,
more,
don't
subsidised
these people
food.
realise who's the woman who's very vocal about having a second referendum?
I'm just trying to think. A big blousy sort of.
No,
bird.
she's not. She's quite a neat-looking little thing. She's not big or blousy, but she's adamant that there should be a second referendum.
Anna Sobry, she's.
I don't know what she advocates, but no, this is
Isn't that
quite
something to do
hard.
with pork?
Tory tree.
What? Sobry. Sowry. Oh, I see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't see how these people can suddenly, in the space of 2 short years, suddenly
Vote
completely
fast.
twist the whole thing round.
Yeah.
You have a vote in a democratic society, which we still reckon to be, just about. You have a democratic vote, and you then follow through on that vote. If you want to go and live in Chile or China, where you don't get a vote, you're just told what to do. If you don't, you get shot. Fine, go and do that.
My worry is that all of these politicos think we're like the Irish, the French, the Danish, and the Dutch, who are forced to have a second referendum because they didn't get the right answer first time round, and they all vote fast. They all went the other way because Europe promised them this, that, and the other. Or in the case of the French, they just said it wasn't a treaty anymore. It's called something else, and so we're doing it anyway. So they get round it, and the French are revolting, aren't they?
Yeah.
But
Not revolting as people,
no.
Well,
but revolting in terms of their view
What's
of
the
the
name of
European
that?
Union.
What's the name of that thing they were? Come on, I taught you this last time, I think.
The thing they want.
Yes, the thing they wear, the yellow thing they wear.
Oh, the high-vis jacket.
Yes.
The yellow jacket thing.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
I don't know.
No,
jaune.
no, gilet jaune.
Gilet jaune. I knew
Gilet
jaune
jaune.
was yellow.
The French are fine. I mean, they're different to us, but that's fine. The Italians are fine. They're
Yeah,
different to
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Everybody's different to everybody.
Yeah,
So this wonderful concept of a big melting pot of federal European states, absolute nonsense. Won't work. Isn't working.
I love Brigitte Bardot in the 50s, but she's gone off a bit, hasn't she?
We're not
lately?
talking about Brigitte Bardot. That's
talking
something
about
completely
French.
different. We're talking about the European Union,
French.
not ogling
And what's the one? The one I really like is the Italian. What's her name?
Sophie Loren.
Sophia Loren. Gee whiz.
Yeah, she's lovely. But nobody likes this. Do you know how much the Italian national debt is now to the European
Isn't
Central
it
Bank?
2 times turnover or something?
It's 270 billion,
Is it really?
which they're asking to be written off.
Oh, great. But people do that. I mean, people are saying that they want us to write things off because we were horrible colonialists and we should be giving trillions to Jamaica and all that sort of stuff. Reparations. But if that was the case, the Germans knocked down my grandparents' house, which with inflation is probably worth £20,000. So
You sure that wasn't High Speed 2 did that?
No, well, I'm suggesting that the Reich, whatever it's called, the German Parliament sends me a cheque for 20,000 quid, which is probably the value of my grandparents' house today. It was a bit of a hovel.
You never miss a trick, do you?
No. But everyone else seems to be jumping on it. And what's this thing about that we're going on for about PPI? Is it or?
Oh yeah, the payment protection.
What about
That's another
PPI?
thing. Well, everyone seems to be. That's costing the country billions.
No, it's costing the banks.
Trust in the banks.
Yeah, but even that,
They don't pay tax here anyway, so it doesn't matter.
doesn't it?
No, the
Oh,
point is.
But
the
I
banks,
won't look into it as a matter of principle.
Yeah, but you didn't have a mortgage after 1990.
Didn't I? Oh.
No.
Oh.
It's only started in 1990 when some bright-eyed little fiscal beauty dreamt up the idea of incorporating a little thing in the general terms and conditions that you paid, incorporated, amalgamated, so nobody noticed.
You pay a little bit more just in case you can't pay for a month.
That's
or
right.
that.
It was basically it was like hire car insurance waiver. You paid a little bit more, and then if suddenly you were stricken down or taken ill or put out of work, then that was covered by insurance. And the trouble is, nobody actually realised it.
Nobody was told.
Nobody was told about
So
it,
they're paying way more than they should have.
which is why suddenly they've got to pay it all back.
No.
So you haven't got a cat in hell's chance because your mortgage was taken out in about 1938 when you bought your first little house in Brackley, wasn't it?
Do you know how much that house was in Brackley?
£6,000.
No, it wasn't. It was £3,500.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had one about 5,000. Mine has central heating.
It's not even a deposit now.
No, it's not.
No.
But look at the difference. This is another thing I get, Elliot, against not a thing against the younger generation, who I love, and the younger and younger generation, my grandchildren, I love even more. But the accusation, because you know what they're calling us now? They call us baby boomers.
That's because we were born after the war.
Yeah.
When our parents came back.
So we're now being accused of capitalising on cheap housing, which relative to today's housing it was, because I bought my first house for £6,000.
Yeah.
And my salary in those days was about 2,000 and a bit.
I know I was on a much higher salary than you. But
No, you're on £1 a week more than me.
Yes.
I'm not talking about your declared salary there.
Oh, the hidden. Oh, yes. Have we told Elliot that story?
We have,
Story.
yes.
Yeah.
But you were making a little bit on the side.
We were, yes.
Through
Both of us
various
were.
means.
Mainly because of you, because of your
I
nefarious goings on.
I made that facility available to you. I never got included in any of the benefits.
Have I told you that I became a money exchanger then, and they found me out
In the bank next door.
And do you know the bank manager came round to see the manager of the hotel?
Of course he did.
Well, I think that's outrageous.
Well, you might think he's outrageous, but I could quite see his point that you were offering a better rate than the bank.
Better rank than the hotel.
And the hotel.
Yes,
yeah. You were doing a one-man money exchange market.
Yeah, circa,
and you got caught out,
circa
didn't you?
1966.
Yes, I know you were.
But they couldn't get rid of me because I was the night manager.
Quite. And so basically you've been a crook since you were the age of 21.
No, I've been a crook since Varney taught me to become a crook.
Right, let's move on now. We're not talking about crooks.
Should we go for immigration now?
No, let's talk about TV licences, because you're approaching 75.
No, I'm about 3 years behind you on age, Varn. So
But they are now mooting the idea that in order to save the country money,
get rid of the 75-year-olds.
Anybody over 75 who currently gets their TV licence for nothing, not that there's anything worth watching on the TV for nothing.
But you know how anti the BBC I am. If you go to the States and you see 100% crap in the States, which it is, you do value everything in the BBC other than its biased news broadcasts, or I do anyway. So I'm very much in favour of public broadcasting in this country other than their totally biased reporters, and they are.
Yeah, but they don't have an awful lot there's not much innovation goes on within the BBC now. It's all reality this and God knows what that.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, there's programmes on policemen chasing around catching criminals. There's programme on border controls apprehending people with their cases stuffed with marijuana and Class A drugs.
Yeah.
There's programmes on people having operations, fat people, implant people, you name it. It's cheap, and then you've got the realities, the Love Islands, the Made in Chelsea, the Made in Cheshire, the Made in Hong Kong, who gives a stuff. But you've got all these programmes that cost very little relatively
but
to
for
make.
all of that, you don't suddenly... do you remember at the end of halfway through programmes, 1955, when Robin Hood, riding through the first Robin Hood thing that came on the television, they would actually have an interval sign when they went into the advertisements for that toothpaste they used to take. That was the one advertisement then, and then they'd go back in. Now they suddenly switch away and they say, Bessie's bras are good for you, Bessie's bras are good for you. Straight it.
Is that sports or ordinary?
Sports bras, yes.
Yeah.
So you don't know where you are within the programme. So
Have you noticed on a lot of these adverts that come on, you end up wondering what they're advertising?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my favourite game, to guess before the end of it. You know, it's some guy swimming in a lake, gets out naked, dries himself off. You're like, what's this for? And then
is it deodorant?
For a watch.
For a watch?
Yeah, wearing a watch. He took it off to jump in the lake. And I love it. Like, oh, is this a car advert? No, it's insurance. Or is this it's a film trailer, whatever. It's great. But
that I don't understand. I mean, surely if you're paying a huge chunk of money to occupy 20 seconds of TV advertising time, you make the whole thing so apparent as to what you're trying to flog. But a lot of these now, they're so obscure, and you're left at the end of it. I often turn to Lynn and I say, what were they advertising?
No, I'm always doing that, but I deliberately switch off. And like the the bonhomie of the American sort of advertisements for their like Coca-Cola, and they've got reindeers dancing through the streets and blah, 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 a nice song, and it was probably quite good in 1978, but it's had its time, for Christ's sake, and time to get rid of it.
Yeah, they don't make... Some of the adverts are very good, and some of them... There was a one they had last year at Christmas, I think it was last year, where they had a fox dancing on a trampoline. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Was that a John Lewis one or not?
Probably.
John Lewis do good ads.
Sainsbury's or something.
Something
John
like
Lewis got like the famous thing. But...
Have I told you the last decent one I saw was, in fact, a Pepsi ad?
Which one was that?
And you had a little boy who went to buy a can of Coke, and he drank it and he put it on the floor, and then he bought another can of Coke, put it on the floor, stood on top of that, and a third one, until he could reach a Pepsi bottle. I think he was pouring the Coke away until he could reach the top to get a can of Pepsi over the Coke. Now that has style, and I like that. But most of it is unadulterated crap.
Yeah.
So
there used to be great adverts on back in the day. Do you remember it was like almost a soap opera. What was it? It was a Nescafe Gold Blend or something. It had like those two. It was like it was meant to look like a soap opera, and it was like this episode and this episode. This for like a year of adverts, and at the end they eventually get together. But you don't have that anymore. You just have some fat guy.
No, you don't. I'll tell you what, Eric, this is something you won't remember. He will. He'll know this. But you won't remember, because do you remember when adverts first came in on television?
I told you. One of the first one was a toothbrush.
I think that was the first ever advert on British television.
I think it was, yeah.
Wasn't it? Toothpaste.
Do you remember the name of it?
McLean's, wasn't it? No,
Euthymal.
No, it wasn't
What
Euthymal.
was it?
I'm looking at it.
Do you know I still use Euthymal toothpaste?
It's all gritty stuff, isn't it?
No. They've now made it ordinary toothpaste.
Yeah, but you've got fake teeth anyway.
Only fake friends.
Gibbs SR.
Gibbs SR.
Was it?
First ever advert on TV.
Yeah.
On
Was
UK
it?
TV.
That would be 1955.
1955.
Yeah.
Really? And do you remember because we used to watch just for the adverts in those days, because we hadn't seen adverts before.
Absolutely.
And it was like when do you remember getting your first fridge?
I think we had it probably before I was old enough to remember it.
Well, I remember our first fridge, and it was a Lec fridge.
Lec?
Yeah.
A Lec. It's still going, yeah.
LEC, yeah.
And it was a huge, great thing.
Yes. I used to hum, hadn't they?
Oh, hums, yeah. But we were so taken with the novelty. We spent the first 8 months with that fridge making ice lollipops.
And you lived in it for a while, didn't you?
No, I didn't live in it. No, I didn't.
Open the fridge, it's hot in it.
But we made lollies because it was just novel. Everything was novel.
Yeah, no, I did that too.
And nowadays it's just taken for granted.
Yeah.
How life changed.
It's changed unbelievably.
It has. So
Can I just go on?
2.4 million people are now going to have to start paying for their TV licence.
And so you should, you old.
No, I don't think so. I think if you reach the age of 75, you've paid your tax, you've given your service. I think the least they can do.
How are the poor old BBC?
Just to give you a telly for nothing. Pardon?
The problem is that the young ones, like your one of your sons or your daughter, will have you living with them just for a free TV license. So Grandad can go.
You don't know my kids, do you? No, you don't. You don't know
that
my
was
kids.
meant as a joke, Varn, for Christ's
sake.
sake.
No, it wasn't a joke. You've got that serious look about you. So you've got 2.5 million people. What does that save the country if you cancel their free licence?
Well, it's
147 times 2.5 million.
Is that what
some of them might only be? Some of the older folks might only be on the black and white license. There's still 8,000 of them in the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read that the other day.
Yeah.
8,000 black, and they're half the price. They're like 55 quid or whatever it is, or 75.
It's unbelievable.
No, but the problem is it's costing the BBC billions to spend on acquiring football matches, etc., for the plebeians to watch.
Did you see this chap at Manchester United, the chosen one, the little Portuguese bloke who's
Jose
Marino.
He's just been sacked.
Got the order of, yes.
He's just been sacked. They've sacked him because Manchester have had a rather dodgy start to their season.
Thank God for that.
It doesn't worry me. But my point being that as a manager he earns a fortune, and if he fails as a manager,
he gets a
fortune. He earns a fortune.
24 million, that's about him.
Are they?
I thought it was 15 million.
24, I read, but it could
well, whatever.
So how does that work?
I mean, either way,
Yes,
You're in a win-win situation.
I wish I was as bad at managing as he was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd love to
Yeah, but
just
how
go
can you do
go
it?
into any job.
It's like these captains of industry, they put them into a job, they pay them $1 million a year, within 3 years it fails or loses money, so they sack them, but they give them $2 million as a bit of a severance
But the
pay.
thing that gets me, whenever you listen to them, the players or the managers, they say, yes, I think Arsenal was very good last every time.
Is that a foreign manager you're trying to...
They're all foreign
I know
managers,
they are.
all foreign. Now, surely to goodness, if we're going to build our own teams up, we should say there's a maximum of 4 or 5 or whatever it is, foreign players.
Used to be 3 in the Premier League.
Yeah, but that's not allowed under EEC rules. That's another reason we should get out, because I don't see the point of supporting Birmingham City Football Club, which I've done for the 60 odd years, if it's comprising of 100% foreigners, which a lot of them are close to. I think Arsenal have the most foreigners. So why don't you support Vladivostok engineers, rather whatever they're called?
Vladivostok engineers.
Rather than,
Is that the name of a team?
It's
You just made it up,
It's
haven't you?
imaginary. It's made
Yeah,
up.
I know.
Yes.
It's good though.
Yeah.
It was good, yeah. Vladivostok engineers.
Yes.
It has a ring to it.
Yes.
It rolls off the tongue quite well.
Yeah. Sometimes it does.
Vladivostok engineers. That's very good.
Okay,
Very
well.
good. So, what do we? These drones. Before we finish with the drones, what are we going to do with them?
I think they should stop selling drones unless they're completely supervised. In other words, no, but you should have a little chip inserted, which is this is Barney's drone.
No.
So anybody can go on and say this is Barney's drone. So if you're going over Heathrow or the other place, they should be able to shoot it down and bang you in jail.
Why didn't they
for
shoot
5
that one
years?
down? I mean,
I'm worried about stray bullets.
Yeah.
oh, for goodness sake.
It's politically correct. But if we can just go from that onto my next topic, because we must be running out of time.
We're over an hour already.
Yes, I tell you what, doesn't time
And
fly?
we got no Brandon.
No.
Brandon's run off with
He's been what? Kidnapped into
He's
Mexico.
in Mexico.
He's
apparently,
run off
but-
with a Mexican, I
Yeah,
heard.
yeah.
Is he wearing a big
He's
floppy?
working. I think he's building a wall or something.
What? So is he being
Bricklaying.
subcontracted?
Yeah, he's doing the windows.
He's doing the windows on the wall. Yeah, why not? Quickly then, are we over an hour?
Yeah,
Over an hour already.
just doesn't time go.
Go on. I'll give you a quickie then.
Everyone's going on about immigration and about Teresa's pledge to bring it below 100,000, and somebody else in the cabinet, the little guy from Stratford, Asian name, forgot his name, saying he wouldn't say. Javid was saying, Bromsgrove was saying that it would stay high, blah blah blah. And people out there, please understand. I don't care how many people come into the country. That's not as many as can work here is great. But, and there's a big but, that none of these buggers will ever mention, they shouldn't go pari passu. Have I taught you that word?
Yes, you taught us that.
Yeah. They shouldn't be pari passu with the little lady from Sheffield as far as entering the NHS, or the little boy from Uddersfield going into school, or any of the other services. Fine. And they should come with their own medical certificates, so they get medical services paid for by their own states. None of this is allowable under the EC. Everything is allowable post Brexit. So let's get out, come in as many as can work at Rover or whatever it is, but you're not having the benefits that the indigenous Brits have. That's
that the indigenous Brits have already paid for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you've worked and lived here for 5 years, you become a Brit. No,
5 years or a certain amount.
Fine. And is that your message to the?
It is, yeah.
To the government. Is that your Christmas message? A bit like the Queen now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is that your Christmas message to the government?
It is indeed.
That's fine. So we're going to pack up in a minute because it's clogging on a bit. We're packing up for Christmas, which we all love, don't we?
What song are we going out?
That German song you picked out.
We should have a Christmas song, surely. But
I think we
not
should.
A crap one.
No.
We need to quickly discuss people's favourite Christmas songs, and then we'll choose one of those.
Once in Royal David City,
We
sung
Three
by
Kings.
the Cambridge.
We Three Kings.
That little fella from the Cambridge single choir boy.
Once in Royal
No, we don't want that.
No, it's beautiful the way
It might be beautiful, but I think far more appropriate. We Three Kings.
Oh, We Three Kings.
Exactly.
Or better still, let's not have it. We three queens of no.
You can't
we,
sing that.
We two queens.
I'm
and
referring to us.
Bulli.
Oi, I'm referring to us. So it's not We Three Queens. It's We Three Kings would be
No,
nice.
I thought I adapted it. We one queen and Bulli.
Elliot, get this out,
Elliot.
for God's sake. So
We Three Kings then, of Orient.
We Three Kings of Orient are, or Redditch Town Square.
Yeah.
What were the three substances? The three kings.
Myrrh, sandalwood, frankincense, and marijuana.
No, gold.
Gold, frankincense,
Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Do you know what gold? What frankincense and myrrh are?
Yes,
What are they?
you smoke it.
I do.
Frankincense is a scent,
Yep.
Yeah.
but it's like incense now. It's just a smell, and myrrh is kind of a similar sort of
An inhalant.
Yeah, then you inhale. Myrrh.
You do, yeah.
But
They call it poppers nowadays, don't they?
yeah, well, it's not far off.
I know. You
There
won't
was
even
apparently
know
there's
what
no
that is.
mention that there was 3 wise men at all in the Bible. So modern scholars believe there was probably either 1 or way more than that, and that was just the gifts that were bought, because we assume there was 3 wise men and three kings, whatever,
Well,
because of the gifts, but there's no real evidence to suggest that. It certainly doesn't say it in the Bible.
I'll
But
tell
my
you what,
daughter's nativity play, there was far more than 3 wise men.
Exactly.
Because when you've got a class of 30, I mean,
They were a group of astrologers, weren't they? So they probably travelled in much bigger groups than 3 of them anyway.
yeah.
So
So it's all a myth.
Well,
But I tell you,
it was written 500 years
Yeah.
after it happened.
but I'm just thinking, if we're the 3 wise men, can I Bagsy the gold? You two can have the myrrh and
You could have the myrrh,
yeah.
I'll snort a bit of myrrh out of
the
it.
incense.
No,
Yeah, why
and I'll
not?
have all the
Why not?
beaucoup de
So we're off for Christmas now. I'm off to Wales.
Yep.
You're off to Hand Green.
Yep.
Yeah. Elliot's off to Cornwall.
Devon.
Lovely. Are we reconvening in the next year?
New Year.
Providing you survive this one.
As I said to my French professor,
Yeah.
when we meet Friday after Christmas, j'aime bien les 4, je suis 82. No, what am I? 62, mon âge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got it wrong. It should have
Yeah,
been
you have.
72
You have.
rather than 62, which she quickly corrected me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Go and enjoy your Christmas.
Yes, have a good
I'll
one.
see you in 2019. I'm not coming to your party on the 23rd because I'm away.
No, it was designed that way, Bob.
I know that. I know that. So thanks for that. The plan worked perfectly, and I'm going to still wish you a happy Christmas, despite
Merry
that.
Christmas to you, and one more time, and belly high, may call you.
It's like some little weird dwarf
any
singing.
night, any day.
We're off.
Goodbye, people.
Goodbye.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Christmas.
See you next year.
See you,
Merry
Elliot.
Christmas.
See you next year.
We 3 kings of Orient are, having this sweet flowers afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following your